So before I get into the 3 rules to get over perfectionism, I want to talk a little bit about what that cycle is, because there is a reliable story that creates the perfectionism and a reliable story that will get you out of the perfectionism. Generally what happens is we start doing something, we do the writing, we do the singing, whatever it is. We either perform well or we perform poorly. And we're viewing everything through a lens of our performance. We start singing and we think we hit a bad note, or we start singing and no one gave us a compliment, or we start singing or someone gave us some feedback that we didn't like, or whatever. I'm using singing as an example. And we start saying, oh, maybe I'm not meant to do this thing. I shouldn't do that. We might even start spinning harder, trying to make sure we get it. Eventually we burn ourselves out and then we stop for a while. And if it's a sticky goal, that'll come back. Singing will come back every now and then if it's a sticky goal of yours, the goal that just won't seem to go away. The other trap that's probably more difficult is when we're viewing through a lens of performance. If we do well, people give us feedback. We're thriving off the compliments. We think, yes, this is great. And actually, both of those situations are having us interact with people by thinking people are attracted to my perfectionism. People are attracted to my high performance. But if I think about people when I interact with people, if I'm around someone that is presenting as very perfect, and no one's perfect, and so to be presenting as perfect is to be presenting as a mask on, as a performance. When I'm around someone like that, I feel kind of unsettled, and it feels like I have to match their energy. If I'm not very conscious about it, it feels like you have to also put on that mask. So one thing to know is people are not attracted to other people's perfection. I heard a quote, it was, the point of all art is to make it painfully aware that you're broken and messed up. And that's what people are attracted to. A lot of art is drawn to people's humanity. And what these are both motivated by is shame and performance. Performance is what leads you to put on a mask, to have to perform, and it's not sustainable. Shame is a good short-term motivator. You can get a burst of, I don't want them to be mad at me, or I want them to like me, but that is the recipe for burnout in the long run. So what we need is a different motivator, which I want to talk about in this video, and 3 rules of things, how we can engage with perfectionism differently. Because what I want ultimately from people is for them to be making progress on their goals, on their creative goals in particular, goals that would put your voice into the world, your creativity in the world, the thing that you feel like you were made to do, your sticky goals. Those are the things that I want people to do. Now, the first I want to talk about, the first rule is the failure quotient. You might have heard like EQ or IQ. This is your like intelligence quotient, your emotional quotient. But this is your FQ. I'm going to call this your failure quotient. A lot of people are, as they're going through life, they're trying to avoid failure at all costs. I think I either am being perfect or I'm failing, or there's somewhere in between, but perfectionism and failure are opposites. Now, I really want to redefine failure. A lot of times people think failure is permanent. Okay, I failed, boom, I hit a wall. That means I can't go any further. But failure, as a teacher, we would talk about as an acronym. The word FAIL, F-A-I-L, is first attempt in learning. The way learning works is you mess up and you learn from it. You mess up and you learn from it. You mess up and you learn from it, and then boom, you unlock a new skill. Like in the case of math, it's like you mess up a bunch of times, oh, and then you learn that skill, and you're not going to be perfect at it all the time, but you've leveled up. But then you got to get to the next skill, and you fail, you mess up, you fail, and then you succeed and you level up. And that is the part of skill accumulation, is failing. So to be in the business of success is to be in the business of failing. Something that I've been researching a lot recently is a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. When you take someone with a fixed mindset, they think, I have a certain skill level and it cannot change. Someone with a growth mindset thinks, I can grow into it. And they think many things. You can grow into creativity. You can grow into singing ability. You can grow into intelligence. And there's a lot of different adjectives we get assigned to people, and a lot of different things where we think people can grow or cannot grow. These 2 people seem very similar when they're succeeding, but they become very different when they fail, when they hit a wall. So for example, when someone with a fixed mindset fails, for example, I'll contrast myself and Michael Jordan. There's a lot of different things we can contrast about the 2 of us. But I'll contrast, when I was in high school, I tried out for the volleyball team. I didn't make it. I got cut. I had a fixed mindset around sports. I started making value judgments. That's a key. I started making value judgments about myself. I'm not an athletic person. I'm just not good enough. I can't do it. So I used that to contribute a value judgment. I hit a wall. I hit a sort of ceiling. And instead of thinking, oh, I can break out of this ceiling, I just said, okay, well, I'm not perfect at it. I just must not be meant to do this thing. That's my ceiling. I guess we're done. Contrast that with Michael Jordan, also cut from his high school basketball team, completely went on to be a completely different person than I went on to be. And that's because he put his focus on verbs. So I put my emphasis on the value. Oh, this is saying I'm not an athletic person or whatever. He put his emphasis on verbs. What can I do? I'll practice more. And he became incredibly widely renowned for his practice routine and how much he loved it. and how much he was willing to go after it. So what I did in that instance was I took failure as final. And what he did was he took failure as a message and saw it as just a stepping stone to continue going further. And so sometimes as I've coached people, they want to start social media, they post a YouTube short, it gets 2 views, and they come back and they're like, I think I'm just not made to do this. But the reality is everyone's videos got 2 views at the beginning, and everyone has ups and downs. You could be way further on in your career and it might be going downhill. And in some ways it's even harder when you're further on and things aren't going well and you start thinking, well, I'm just a has-been. I was growing at one point and I can't grow anymore. So we need to increase our failure quotient, which the way I'm defining it is we need to increase our tolerance for failure without judging ourselves or shaming ourselves, but just seeing the metric objectively. The second thing, as we embark on a creative project, the second rule, as we use our voice and we're working on this sticky goal, is we need to also increase our tolerance for not knowing everything. I've taken several YouTube courses over the course of the years about how to do YouTube. And they always start, in the ones I've taken, they have always started with some sort of clarity exercise. What is your why? Make sure you start with why. Make sure you start with all this clarity. And actually when Simon Sinek communicated that idea of start with why, he was talking about how to communicate to others. When you communicate to others, start with the why behind what you're communicating, then discuss how it's different, then discuss the how. So in that order. But a lot of people have interpreted it to mean like, don't get started unless you know absolutely why. You need to have a clear-cut vision. Your motives need to be 100% great. You need to have all this stuff. And I've done tons of exercises that are supposed to help you with what's your why, what's your vision. And I don't know any more information at the end of those exercises than when I started, because I already tend to spend time kind of ruminating or kind of mulling over different things like, why do I want to start a YouTube channel? And it didn't really help me get anywhere further. What it did do was delay the action and give me more procrastination. So these learning, okay, I'll take this course, I'll get coached by this person, I'll do this journaling exercise. It's all just methods a lot of times from perfectionists trying to delay action. And there's this metaphor that people use a lot that they say, if you're trying to go to space and you're even 1 degree off, by the time you get to space, you will have completely, if you're just trying to get to a certain planet, you will have completely missed it by millions of miles. And this has led people to say, oh, well, okay, well, I don't want to get started because I'm going to miss it because millions of miles. But that has the assumption that you can never change path. That has an assumption of permanence. And I want us to understand that everything is changeable and it's not permanent. So what'll happen is maybe you get started on this YouTube channel and you think, I want to do it about this. But then you'll get a little ways down that path and you say, oh, I don't really want to. And you know what? You're not a spaceship set in one fixed direction. You can change course. And in the mountain metaphor that I use, where the mountain is the goal, a lot of times what people would want is they want to get from point A to point B as fast as they can. They want to go straight up that mountain. But actually the paths up mountains a lot of times contain a lot of switchbacks. And I think people think, oh, that's slow. I don't want to do that. I don't want to go the wrong direction for a little bit, just to go back this way a little bit. But in my experience with goals, you don't have all the information at the beginning. It's the action that leads to clarity. People want clarity, then action, but it's got to be the other way. You got to take some action without clarity. It's foggy, you don't know. And then you get a glimpse of some clarity. And then you say, oh, that's great. Finally, you do 30 videos and ooh, then something is like, oh, that's interesting. Okay, so then you go that way for a little bit. You do 30 more videos and you think, I don't know, it's not quite working. And you ping pong. And eventually you kind of zone in after all these zigzags. So the true failure isn't failing or going in the wrong direction temporarily. Failure to me is staying at the bottom of the mountain, thinking about how to get to the top of the mountain. There's 40 different ways to get to the top of the mountain, and some of them are more efficient than others, but the most inefficient way is to stay sitting at the bottom of the mountain. So it's like people want, I gotta choose the perfect one and I don't know what'll happen. What if I choose the wrong one? That is the wrong option, sitting at the bottom of the mountain. That's the worst, that you found it, that's the worst way to get to the top of the mountain. The third rule is about the differences between processes and outcomes. So a lot of times people will start out, maybe they'll start out writing, and there's this question in the back of their head that's like, am I a good writer? Will I amount to anything? It's kind of this back of the head thing that's kind of always there. But I think the question is not, am I good at this? That's not, when you get to the end of your life, you're on your deathbed, I don't think the question we're going to be asking ourselves is like, was I a good video editor? Did I perform well at video editing? I don't think that that's really what matters. The question when you get to the end of your life is like, was I happy? Did I enjoy doing this? And so we need to not ask the question, am I talented at this? Like when we look at people that are prodigies or that we feel are extremely talented, like Michael Jordan, for example, to me the question is not, was he innately talented at it? The question is, was his talent actually that he loved it enough that he could doggedly go after it? And I feel like there are people who are after the results and hate the process, and they won't get the results because they hate the process. And then conversely, there's people for the love of the game and they love the process and they love it so much that they will do it so much that they will then get the results. And so I heard this question the other day that I really liked, which is, if you knew a goal was going to take 5 years to achieve, for example, like if you were going to write a book and you knew the book was going to take 5 years to write, let's say, and you knew you were going to die 2.5 years in, so the book would only be, you knew the book was only going to be half complete, would you still do it? And that is a good question, because it tells you if you're doing it for the love of the thing or if you just want the results. Do you just want the results, the ego boost, the recognition, like you just want to say, I'm an author? Or do you actually love writing? And it's the people who love writing that are going to be able to get through it. It's a question of, if I were to die halfway through, could I still say I really enjoyed the last 2 years? Or was I just waiting on some future outcome that wasn't going to happen? Now, in a lot of things, there are two different types of results that could happen. There are results that are 100% within your control, and there are results that are not 100% within your control. You contribute to them, but you don't 100% control them. So for example, if you're trying to lose weight, you have 100% control over, did you go grocery shopping? Did you get the food that you wanted to eat? Did you work out, for example? Those are your results that you have 100% control over. Conversely, then there's how much pounds are on the scale or how much inches that are lost. Your actions should have a direct correlation with those things, but they do not have a 100% causation. You know, like you eat one of this, you lose 1 pound. Now your actions should line up and they should definitely be affecting each other. And if they're not affecting each other, that's a problem, but you don't have 100% control over them. And so when people obsess over the results that they don't have 100% control over, like how many subscribers do you have on a social media channel? How many pounds or inches did you lose? What size are you? How much money did your business make? These are like secondary indicators that should indicate if your results are working, but we don't have 100% control over them. So as you're starting, don't get too hung up on uncontrollable outcomes or perfecting that uncontrollable outcome. A lot of times, sometimes when people have eating disorders, for example, they're focused on this result that they can't fully control, whether it's the pounds or the inches or whatever it is. And I think some people have like a success disorder, which is overly focused on and fixating on results that they can't control, like money or subscribers, and taking that as a value judgment. So I want us to just completely block out, especially at the beginning, like especially if you're just at the first month, like if you're using this challenge and you just start a YouTube channel, for example, I want us to just block out all those other results. And we need to define quality in a different way. And quality needs the metric, the meaningful metric should be like, am I enjoying this? If I was going to do this for 2.5 years and it never panned out, would I still enjoy it? And we're going to pursue those type of things. That's a meaningful metric of happiness and enjoying it. And I'll talk in future videos about values, but it's not how many views did it get? On your deathbed, you're not sitting there thinking like, oh, wow, I got 500,000 views. Like, that's great. That's not what's meaningful to you. It's happiness. It's enjoying the process and loving what you do. So instead of being afraid of failure, we're seeing failure as part of the process. Failure is part of the pie of success. And so we're starting to love failure because it means we're taking risks. And it means we're going in the right direction. And if you're not failing, it means you're not trying. And so failure is actually a sign that you haven't given up and you're going in the right direction. The next thing is we're just normalizing not knowing everything. We don't have full clarity, but we're going anyways. We're going into the fog. We don't know exactly where we'll end up. We have a vague idea and we're going anyways. We're doing the best we can with the knowledge we have right now. And we're taking action. And that taking action is what will enable us to know everything. So if we do want to know everything, we need to be comfortable not knowing it at first. And then third, we're focusing on meaningful metrics. We're not harshly criticizing ourselves over results that we can't fully control, but we're focusing on the meaningful metric of loving the process and enjoying the process and measuring our happiness along the way. Keep working your way up the mountain. There's detours, but part of the detours builds character. There's a rap song, it has the lyric, the quicker you're here, the faster you go. And I think that's just because if you were to really get from point A to point B so quickly, you haven't developed the character to be able to handle when you get there. So those kind of back and forths, it helps you hone in on what you actually want and what your character is, because if you don't have that calibrating of what your dream truly is and what you truly like, if you got to the top of that mountain really quickly, it could be the wrong mountain to begin with. So we want to have clarity and calibration on what the goal actually is and what we actually want would make us long-term happy. And we want to have the character when we get there. So slow process, the slower it takes to get there, the longer you stay. The quicker you're here, the faster you go. That's something that I think about. So if you would like to see the rest of the September Shift Challenge, I will have that playlist linked here. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks. Bye.